later in the race when the car's a bit lighter, they'll be in second. And then this is very much first gear, of course, for the old station hairpin. Apparently these cars now have, with a 3.5-litre engine, they now have enough torque that they don't chug too much out of this corner in first gear. In my day, we used to have to kick the clutch to try and get the rear wheels alight. And now looking from Brundle's car down to the chicane, slowed right down a few years ago for safety reasons. Great shame, but for safety it was necessary. Now short straight, right up through the gearbox, then into the Sabac corner, one of the quicker corners on the circuit, one of the more difficult ones. And then stay going left all the way, and then onto the brakes again, and into the swimming pool complex. And now Senna will be slowing the field right down in order to not wait any longer than necessary on the grid. He wants to bunch them up so he doesn't have to sit there for longer than necessary with the engine running. Of course, the water temperature rises. These cars don't have fans. They depend on moving to keep cool. And of course, he'll have it in gear all the time, so the clutch will be dragging and causing friction, and again, he doesn't want to stay sitting in first gear with his foot on the clutch for too long, because the clutch can overheat doing that.
Let me say again, as I say every year, that the first corner of this Monaco Grand Prix is the most crucial of the whole lot. If you can get into the first corner first, and that will be Ayrton Senna's objective, you've in effect got it made, because it's very, very difficult to pass. Now there, ahead of Martin Brundle, and we're with him now, you can see Alain Prost's car on the right of your screen as you look now. Ayrton Senna has got a clear track in front of him. He has got behind him Thierry Boutsen, and behind Boutsen is Mansell and the semi-automatic gearbox Ferrari, which could give him an advantage on this first lap. He's only got to flick the levers on the steering wheel to change gear. He does not have to take his hand off the wheel at all to operate a gear lever. So there are the lights. Watch for the green. And there's trouble on the grid because somebody, Derek Warwick it is, has stalled his engine. You can see the yellow flags waving furiously. This is no place to start a race if everybody has not got his engine running. The red light's on then. Alain Prost sits there with Stefano Modena. You can tell him, incidentally, by the green stripes on his helmet. The two Brabhams have got a camera mounted in an identical position on the cars, and we've been having some superb pictures from them in practice. Modena waving his hand. He wants to be restarted too from the look of things, and you can see also the tear-off strip on his visor, ready to be ripped off if it gets clogged up with flies or oil or anything else that interrupts his vision. So a moment, a time of very high tension now, because the drivers, there you see the 5-minute board going out. That means to say there is going to be that much of a delay. Not too difficult to do, stall your engine under those circumstances, but Derek Warwick won't be at all pleased. There's Herbie Blash talking to Martin Brundle. Herbie Blash, who is the managing director of Brabham. So now you see what it's like from the driver's point of view. Prost directly in front of the Brabham, and to the right, the other red and white car is that of pole position holder Ayrton Senna. That is Prost's car.
Now hopefully on an aborted start like that we'll get a 5-minute board pretty quickly. There shouldn't be too much to do.
Meantime, everybody floods back onto the circuit. The race will, for sure, be reduced in length by 1 lap now.
I understand we've already had the 5-minute board, so they're not wasting too much time.
But we need to see a clearance of people from the grid. Meantime, tyre heaters are going on again. Ferrari, I need hardly say, with Italy being just a few kilometres away from here, is a tremendously popular constructor. And Nigel Mansell has got Nigel Mansell has got virtually the whole of Italy behind him now. He won, of course, in Brazil. He was lying in third position, and a really fighting third position at Imola in the San Marino Grand Prix until he had to retire. And by the way, Mansell has had front wing breakages here at Monaco, and there have been deductions that that was the problem with Gerhard Berger's car at Imola when he plunged off the circuit, Ayrton Senna there. I'm being very careful not to say that that was the problem, because I don't think anybody really knows. One of the major problems that Ferrari had when they set about trying to find out what had caused the problem with Berger's car is that the enthusiastic tifosi, Italian supporters, had made off with a lot of the bits of Berger's car, as a result of which they weren't able to look at them all and deduce where, if anywhere, there was a breakage.
There's Jean-Pierre Belsoise and his lady wife. Belsoise, remember, had the distinction of winning in 1972, I think it was, when it rained, and that race took 3.5 hours, as a result of which the rule was brought in, and a very good rule it was too, that Grand Prix should be 200 miles or 2 hours, whichever is the lesser. So we didn't have to sit here and get bored out of our minds for 3.5 hours as we did on that particular day.
Well, if your idea of boredom is driving around Monaco for 3.5 hours in the rain, James, it certainly isn't mine.
I wasn't driving, I was watching, and that was boredom.
Right, well, there's the man. There is Derek Warwick, the chap who had to indicate by sticking his hand out of the cockpit that his Ford DFR engine had gone spare, presumably because he stalled it. Jackie Oliver, by the way, ex-Le Mans 24-hour sports car race winner in the dark glasses. And there goes the vital board, if I could only see what was on it. There we are. 1 minute. 1 minute to go. Walking towards us in the centre of your screen in the blue shirt, Charlie Whiting, who is the FISA scrutineer. So it's all going to happen again. The green flag. Another circuit of this 2.068 mile, 3.328 kilometre circuit at Monaco. Then I presume 77 racing laps. Derek Warwick will be very careful to keep it going this time. His brother Paul is here, having taken part in the Formula 3 race yesterday. And there is the Ross Brawn Arrows. As I said earlier on, that's the best Arrows that there has ever been. It's strong, it's sturdy, and I would expect it to go the distance. And if it does, Derek Warwick is sure to be well up. 6th on the grid. And last year he was in 4th position ahead of Jonathan Palmer in the Tyrrell, who's finished 5th for the last 2 years, starting way down on the grid this year in 23rd place. Palmer, and we're with now Martin Brundle in his Brabham.
We are indeed, and they're off and moving, and certainly I expect a good race from Derek Warwick. He's really on a high at the moment. He's in the best car that he's been in really since the Renault, and maybe a better, more competitive car than the Renault.
And Riccardo Patrese has stalled on the grid this time. The car, as you can see for yourselves, is not running. And if they push start it means to say that Patrese, instead of starting from 7th position on the grid, will have to start right at the back.
He'll have to do that anyway now, Murray, because I think he's not allowed to rejoin his position in the field. So by getting away last, he has to stay at the back of the field, which of course is a tragedy for him. But anyway, they got it running, so he'll catch the field up easily enough, but he will have to start from the back.
Very unhappily, of course, because as I have said before, passing people at Monaco is extremely difficult, and starting from 26th on the grid instead of 7th is a very considerable handicap.
Yes, despite having the Renault V10 behind him, which appears to be the state-of-the-art engine at the moment. It looks, certainly from outside the car, at least as good as the Honda.
So, Patrese takes up his position behind Louis Perez-Sala in the second of the two Minardis. And he's got it all to do, has Riccardo, in his 179th Grand Prix. So, now, after a 5-minute delay or so, this is the attempt to get the Monaco Grand Prix going. It failed the first time because Derek Warwick stalled his engine. I say again that Maurizio Gugelmin in the 1988 March was to start from the pit lane, and there you see Ayrton Senna, followed by Prost, followed by Thierry Boutsen, followed by the blue and white Brabham of Martin Brundle, and the scarlet red Soul Ferrari of Nigel Mansell, coming out of the Rascasse, the very slow second gear, 30 mile an hour at racing speeds. There's Mansell, there's Derek Warwick, Modena, Cappy, Alex Cappy, the little Italian ex-motorcycle enduro rider. Alboreto goes round, and now we see Martin Brundle's view again. Behind him, the 600 horsepower plus V8 Judd, and in front of him, the two V10 Honda-powered McLarens.
Now, this is a very good picture from Martin Brundle's car. This gives a real impression of what it's like as they come onto the grid, just trickling up, take up the grid position, and the tension mounts.
And I'm looking down the course to see Riccardo Patrese, as you see the lights in the top right corner of your screen. And there is Patrese. He is round the Rascasse corner, coming up into position. And after the red, it will be less than 7 seconds before the green and the start of the 1989 Monaco Grand Prix. Now, let's see. Senna gets away. Prost has got a flyer. Prost and Boutsen is behind him. Everybody is away now. Are they getting through Saint-Avant? It's Boutsen. Mansell is up a place. Mansell has gained a place already. Now they're sprinting up towards the Hotel de Paris. They are all round Saint-Avant safely. Patrese is already ahead of Sala. Coming up to the Hotel de Paris, and it is the two McLarens, then Boutsen, Mansell, Brundle and Warwick.
And Senna really got away like a man who looks like he means business. Prost taking it a little bit more gently on the opening lap, but Senna got a great start and looks as if he's going to try and break the field as soon as possible.
Yes, but this time, unlike last year, Alain Prost is in second position and not trapped behind a car as he was in 1988, the car of Gerhard Berger last year. Through the tunnel at 160 miles an hour, down to the chicane, and there goes Mansell, Brundle still up, then it is Derek Warwick, followed by Cappy. Now we're coming up to the swimming pool. They go through in fourth gear these days, taking it at about 85 miles an hour. That's Johnny Herbert, and the McLarens are still in front. And Martin Brundle is starting to catch Nigel Mansell as Prost goes through second. Then it's Boutsen, Mansell, Brundle, Warwick, Cappy. No, it's De Cesaris, and Modena is catching up. Modena has gained a place already. Tarquini goes through. Cappy has dropped back. 1 lap completed. 76 to go, because I confirmed that it is going to be a 77 lap Monaco Grand Prix. It having been reduced by 1 lap in view of the full start. There is Olivier Gouillard in the Ligier with its Ford engine coming up the hill, round the Hotel de Paris, into Casino Square, turning right, plunging downhill. There is the Hotel de Paris in the foreground, round Massenet. And Riccardo Patrese is surging through the field. Look at him. He's taking Nelson Piquet, who started well down the grid after a lot of trouble in practice. That is Jonathan Palmer. And away they go, round the old station hairpin, now the Lowe's hairpin, up to the tunnel. And we're looking at the midfield men with Ayrton Senna still leading on the second lap from Alain Prost in second position. They go through the tunnel.
Tremendous performance by Riccardo Patrese. I can't remember seeing anybody pass so many people in 1 lap of Monte Carlo, because remember, this is a lovely shot from Martin Brundle's car here through the swimming pool complex, down into second gear, right, and then booting it away, short straight into the Rascasse. Now down into first gear here, see winding on maximum lock.
Now, I have been told that above all, with Martin Brundle having Nigel Mansell in front of him, there he goes. The Brabham team are going for a finish. Derek Warwick is still there. And this is Martin Brundle coming up the hill at sub 150 miles an hour. An incredible performance Now round the left-hander at Massenet. There is the 7-speed Ferrari in front, dropping down the hill into the right-hander at Mirabeau. Brundle, Judd-powered Brabham. There go the McLarens and Boutsen in third place has got Mansell behind him fourth, Martin Brundle in fifth position, it's Senna leading, and you can see it's all action at the hairpin, and we are now on lap 3 in the 77-lap race, as race leader Ayrton Senna seems to be easing away a little from Alain Prost, a long way to go. Boutsen third, Mansell fourth, Brundle in fifth position. There is Alex Caffey in sixth position, ahead of Derek Warwick and Medina.
And I think that Prost is actually a little bit closer to Senna. Senna's bid for freedom to get away in the early laps seems to have not worked so far. Prost is quite clearly holding him.
Yes, after 2 laps, Ayrton Senna had got a lead of 2.2 seconds. He goes past me now. There he is. There is the Brazilian. And that is Alain Prost. Now, as I've said before, Prost knows exactly what the score is. You can see the building gap between Prost in second position and Thierry Boutsen coming up to the Hotel de Paris in third place.
Yes, and sure enough, that was the new fastest lap of the race from Prost, and he's reduced that gap by a full second. So Prost looks as if he's starting to mount his challenge. Now, this, of course, is going to be a challenge conducted with considerable patience, because it will take him all of the 70 laps to find a way around. We see a yellow flag in the tunnel, and it's Derek Warwick who's gone missing. We saw him slow down coming down to the station hairpin on the last lap, just had a subliminal flash of him, and what a great shame for Derek Warwick.
Yes, now, James made a remark there about Senna and Prost. We have been assured, as I mentioned earlier on, that all is well between them, but I believe that not to be the case. Alain Prost was absolutely livid with Senna for what he regarded as a less than honest attitude, and there is one of the Minardis. It is that of Martini, Pierluigi Martini, and now Prost definitely going for it. He's right up with Senna.
Yes, and I completely agree with you, Murray. That isn't the case at all. That was an assurance from the management of McLaren and not from the drivers themselves, and Prost is still very angry, and funny enough, he's looking like a driver who's pretty angry in the car. He looks very motivated indeed.
Race order on this, the 5th lap. You can see for yourselves the battle for the lead between the 2 McLarens, and this really is a fight. Senna leading, Prost in second position. Boutsen is some 3 seconds behind as Prost continues to challenge. Mansell is in 4th place, Brundle is 5th, De Cesaris is 6th, Modena is in 7th position, followed by Tarquini, Caffey, Michele Alboreto in the new Tyrrell is 10th, 11th is Nannini, and 12th is Alio.
And I'm wondering if Senna maybe has some sort of a problem, and
that is Olivier Grouillard, the Frenchman, and he is out of the Monaco Grand Prix.
And Senna is definitely not lapping as quickly as he was this morning in the warm-up on full tanks in race trim, or as quickly as I would expect him to be, so I have a sneaking suspicion that Senna might have some problem with his car.
Well, if he has, Alain Prost will soon be taking advantage of it. Alain Prost has already won 4 of the last 5 Monaco Grand Prix. There's nothing he'd like more than to make this 5 and to equal Graham Hill's all-time record. Now he's right, he's very soon going to be in a passing position, but getting past Ayrton Senna in a car of identical specification and performance is going to be very difficult indeed. And you can see that Thierry Boutsen is getting a bit closer. The gap has come down slightly. If James is right, and I'm sure he is, this means to say that Prost could go faster if he could get past Senna. Now we must watch Boutsen, because Boutsen, you can see in the background, in 3rd position, is gaining slightly on the 2 McLarens ahead. And Boutsen is some 1 second ahead of Nigel Mansell. There is the red Ferrari in 4th place. Martin Brundle is still in 5th place. Down to the Portier, into the tunnel, up a gear. Past the stationary arrows of Derek Warwick, sadly out of this race. in an event which he expected to do well in and had every reason to expect to do well in. Now we're on lap 6. There's Boutsen, Mansell, so it's the two McLarens, Honda engines. Boutsen with the Renault engine. Martin Brundle with the Judd engine. Andrea De Cesaris is there in the Dallara. Now we're coming down to the Rascasse, which is second gear, 30 miles an hour. And if Prost can get his front wing close to the gearbox of Ayrton Senna's McLaren, he could be in a passing position as they come up to Saint-Devote, followed by Boutsen.
Yes, he's going to have to get himself into position through the Casino Square. I'm sure that the place he's going to have a go is down the hill to Mirabeau, out of the Casino Square. So as they rise up the hill now towards Prost, not quite close enough. He really has to be right up, tucked up the gearbox in order to have a go at Senna down the hill.
And Thierry Boutsen in third position has taken nearly 1 second out of the lead of the two McLarens. You can see for yourself, and you can see where Mansell is. First, second, third, fourth, and Martin Brundle still in fifth position. A great Monaco Grand Prix. De Cesaris sixth.
Well, I'm fairly convinced that Senna's got some sort of a problem, because, but it's making it a much better race for us, because we really expected the McLarens to go away much more commandingly than they are. You can see that Prost is climbing all over the back of Senna, and it's quite clear that Prost could go a lot quicker if he could get by. What I can't work out is what could possibly be wrong with Senna's car, because to make such a small difference is quite difficult. There's obviously nothing major wrong with it, but I'll keep having a look.
Now, I'll give you the time difference between the first and fourth, and it is not going to be very much as Thierry Boutsen rounds the Rascasse with the McLaren of Alain Prost getting ever closer. Senna goes past me, and now Nigel Mansell goes past me, and the gap between first and fourth is 3.5 seconds. Thierry Boutsen, the Belgian, in the Williams Renault, climbing the hill towards the Massenet. You can still see Martin Brundle in the background in the Brabham. And I know that Martin's intention was to drive a conservative race. Now, his idea of conservatism at the moment is a very strong fifth position. And we are on lap 8, which is rather over 1/10 distance. Still very close at the front. Senna, Prost, Boutsen, Mansell. The automatic gearbox of the Ferrari holding up well. It's got a rebuilt front wing to be stronger than the one that they had in the San Marino Grand Prix. Into the tunnel yet again, building up fifth gear, 160 miles an hour, bursting out of it at 165 miles an hour on the drop down to the chicane. Second gear, 40 miles an hour, Boutsen third, Mansell fourth, Brundle in fifth position. It's still De Cesaris sixth, Modena seventh, Tarquini eighth, Caffey ninth, Alboreto 10th, Nannini 11th, and Alio 12th. And this is Nigel Mansell. Nigel Mansell loves this Monaco circuit, but he has never done very well at it. He led in the Lotus, only to retire years ago.
Yes, I was going to correct you that. He's done very well, but he hasn't got the results. That's the thing. He's always driven immaculately here, been very, very quick. But it's one thing being quick at Monaco, it's another thing being lucky enough for your car to take you all the way to the finish. And Senna has upped his pace a little bit. He's now lapping a little bit quicker. And tremendous news through the Casino Square. Martin Brundle's car through the right hand of the road falls away sharply. The rear wheels let go just as you come over that hump, and then hard on the brakes. So into first or second, it's a choice. And then first gear for the station hairpin. You can see there that he didn't change between the corners, so he must have been in first for the Mirabeau. Blossoming through the tunnel. The circuit is really quite bumpy for these very stiffly suspended cars, running the ride height as low as possible. And here we're back with Martin again through the chicane and up to the Tabac. Probably the most difficult corner on the circuit.
Nigel Mansell in fourth place, Brundle is fifth, Johnny Herbert is in 19th position, and Jonathan Palmer is in 20th place as we come up to the Rascasse with Martin Brundle I was having a long... And look how Alain Prost now is right with Senna. And look, too, at how Thierry Boutsen and Mansell are catching both the McLarens. This is lap 9, up to Sainte-Devote. Senna, Prost, Boutsen and Mansell, then Brundle. Still in 6th position, De Cesaris. And Martin Brundle has just gone round in 1 minute 28.2. In the Brabham Judd, he is currently the fastest man on the circuit. That compares with Ayrton Senna's lap record of 1 minute 26.3. But of course, they have got a virtually full fuel load. And the gap is coming down all the time. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. Virtually together, down into the Portier. Only about 20 cars length between Alain Prost in second place, then Boutsen, Mansell fourth. Brundle is catching the Ferrari.
And the extraordinary thing is that they are lapping some 2 seconds a lap slower than they did in the warm-up this morning. When I say that, I refer to the 2 McLarens. And this still convinces me that there is some minor problem with Senna's car.
The thing is, of course, that Ayrton Senna, provided he stays on the racing line and stays cool, and he is in his 81st Grand Prix, can control the race from the front. But soon the pressure is going to be enormous, because Thierry Boutsen in 3rd position is now only about 1 second behind Nigel Mansell. Thierry Boutsen is, 1 second ahead of Nigel Mansell. There goes the Englishman. There goes the second Englishman, Martin Brundle. First, second, third, fourth, fifth together. And De Cesaris is some 4 seconds behind Brundle in 6th position in the Dallara. In the second Brabham, it is Stefano Modena in 7th position, followed by Gabriele Tarquini, who did so well in the San Marino Grand Prix to finish in 6th place. He's in the AGS. 9th is Alex Cappi. And round the Lowe's hairpin they go again. Second gear this is. I had a long talk with Martin Brundle about gears just before this race started, and he said, of course, the cars this year, in comparison with the turbo cars last year, have got much more torque. They don't have to use the gears as much as they did in 1988. And Brundle comes down to the chicane, second gear, 40 miles an hour, chasing Nigel Mansell in 4th place in the Ferrari. Now we're with Brundle. That's the Ferrari ahead, and ahead of the Ferrari is Boutsen's Williams. They're round the swimming pool now. Left, right, tiny little short straight, right again. Then the left, past the boatyards on the left. Into the Rascasse. He's going to go hard right in a minute, and you can see the rear of the Ferrari getting closer and closer as Martin Brundle exits the Rascasse in 5th position, chasing Nigel Mansell. Over the line, Senna's just gone round in 1 minute 28.539, and he's just gone round quicker, but Prost is no, he's not. The fastest man on the circuit at the moment is Thierry Boutsen, 1 minute 28.3, and the Belgian is continuing remorselessly to gain on Alain Prost as we go into Casino Square with Brundle, now out of it. Past the new Metropole Hotel on the right, past the Mirabeau, that's where Alio went off last year, down to Lowe's. See Boutsen, the 3rd car, the white, yellow and blue Williams with its Renault engine, the Bernard Dudo designed Renault V10, and Martin Brundle is right up with Mansell. This is lap 12. But still, the ice-cool Ayrton Senna, as he goes into the chicane, is controlling things from the front.
And whatever problem he's got, it's certainly making it a better race, because we've got the first 5 cars very much in combat. Of course, passing is another thing. Prost is as close as he can be, but really it's going to be very, very difficult to find a way around.
Yes, I was talking with Osamu Goto, the Honda chief technician, earlier, and he was telling me that they make quite dramatic differences to the Honda V10 engine after San Marino, and you're watching Boutsen and Mansell virtually together, chasing Prost in 2nd place, Senna the leader. And Osamu Goto was saying that they've completely rejigged the Honda V10 engine, in order to give it more torque, to make it more drivable, to make it more fuel efficient. Fuel efficiency isn't vital here at Monaco because the full race distance is only 161 miles. And now Mansell is very soon going to be in a position to try to pass Boutsen. Nigel Mansell then, against some people's expectations, has done 12 laps of this Monaco circuit. That semi-automatic gearbox, a suspect part of the overall Ferrari specification, has been beefed up. The electrics which control it have been strengthened, and Martin Brundle sees the Ferrari. Watch his right hand. That's the gear change hand. This is the swimming pool. Fourth gear he goes through there. You'll see his hand come off and change down into third gear. There he goes, down into third gear. Now to second. Cross hands. Here comes Martin. Up behind Nigel Mansell. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars going through to complete their 13th lap in this 77-lap Monaco Grand Prix. And it is the world champion Ayrton Senna in the McLaren Honda leading. Prost is in second place, Boutsen third, Mansell in fourth position, and Martin Brundle in fifth place with only about 4 seconds covering them. Andrea de Cesaris is still in sixth position. Down to the Mirabeau, the right-hander. Out of it, into Lowe's. What a race. There's about 3,000 horsepower there, those 5 cars. And Martin Brundle, the first 4 cars are using Goodyear tyres. Martin Brundle is the first Pirelli-equipped competitor. Went extremely well in practice on their qualifiers. Very confident about the race tyre. And I remind you again that Martin Brundle's intention and that of Stefano Medina, and that is Riccardo Patrese in the pits. Riccardo Patrese, who started last, having had problems on the grid in the pits. Well, Riccardo obviously stuck there, and that's doing his chances no good at all. Meantime, out of the Rascasse again, up into the twisty section with Monaco Harbour on the right, up to Saint-Devote, the right-hander, 70 miles an hour, third gear, accelerating away up the hill towards Massenet, the left-hander. They build up to nearly 170 miles an hour, believe it or not, in this section before going down into fourth gear. And now the gap between Prost and Boutsen, which was diminishing, seemed to me to be a little greater there, but Boutsen is certainly pulled away from Mansell, and Brundle is catching the Ferrari. We're with Martin Brundle now, coming down to the left-hander at Lowe's, round the hairpin. This is the second slowest point on the corner, on the course. Into the Portier, still in second gear. Now, remember what I said earlier on about lapping, because Ayrton Senna is now catching Maurizio Gugelmin in last year's March to lap him, and this will give Alain Prost his opportunity to close up. Senna's going to pass him, and this is giving Senna an opportunity. He took his courage in both hands, dived through on the approach to the swimming pool. Prost, meantime, is boxed in.
What will be, well, Prost has got through pretty quickly now. Gugelmin quite rightly made space, and now he's going to let Boutsen through as well. And that's good driving by Gugelmin. But what I was interested to see was how, as if a little bit of a gap developed, was how quickly Prost would catch Senna again. Because I'm still convinced that Prost can go a lot quicker.
There's Mansell passing Gugelmin, and by the way, Riccardo Patrese came into the pits because he'd lost part of his rear wing. Martin Brundle now takes Gugelmin, and he's passed him. You can see a clear track ahead from the camera.
And interesting enough, Senna's found a new turn of speed because he just put up the new fastest lap for the race, and he's some 7 or 8 tenths of a second quicker than he's been at any other time in this race, despite having to pass Gugelmin.
That is a new fastest lap, 1 minute 27.502 by Ayrton Senna, capitalising on the fact that he was able to get past Gugelmin and clear out about a second lead over Alain Prost, who is now grimly trying to whittle it down again. We are on lap 16. Senna leads. Prost second, Boutsen third, Mansell fourth, Brundle fifth. De Cesaris is in sixth position. And then it's Modena seventh. Tarquini is in eighth position. And that is Roberto Moreno, who has been passed and is now being passed by Brundle. And look at the way Brundle is going. He's right up with Mansell.
Yes, tremendous shot there. Brundle right up for Mansell's exhaust, helped by the back marker. And I would think that, and you see the back of the Ferrari sliding around a little bit there, and I would think that Brundle is preparing to mount an attack.
Yes, in the past, James and I have sweated with frustration about the on-car camera not being used. My goodness, it's been brilliantly used in this race, giving us a driver's eye view of how Martin Brundle is right with Nigel Mansell.
And extraordinary enough, Senna has just gone another nearly, well, 3/4 of a second quicker than the lap before. So suddenly, in 2 laps, from doing mid-28 and appearing to be struggling, he's suddenly gone down into 1:26.8, which is really quite a surprise, because I wouldn't expect, there was no reason for him to have been sandbagging before or not rushing. But suddenly he's found a new turn of speed, and look how he's pulled away from Prost.
Yes, Prost dropping back, Senna pulling away, and you can see how Boutsen in third position has dropped back. This is as a result of the lapping problems. Mansell still in fourth place, Martin Brundle in fifth position, and it is still De Cesaris in sixth place, but much closer to Martin Brundle than he had been. Now we're with Brundle, trying to close the gap with Mansell. That's where Mansell was taken off by Alboreto last year, when Mansell was in the Williams and Alboreto was in the Ferrari. And by the way, Michele Alboreto is in 10th position in his first race in the Tyrrell 018 on this, the 18th lap. And Prost now can see Senna, but only just.
Yes, Senna suddenly found a new turn of speed, quite dramatically, really, and he's some 3.8 seconds ahead of Alain Prost. And I think that's a new lap record, is it not?
1:26.2. Yes, by 1/10 of a second, Ayrton Senna has broken the turbocharged lap record, which he held himself. 86.26 was the previous record. It's now 86.3 miles an hour, and I suspect he's still got something in reserve. And I imagine that Senna, perhaps nursing his tires at the beginning of the race, is making a break for it now. You see Prost coming out of the chicane. Senna's coming up to catch and lap a Minardi smoothly and quickly, he hopes, because if he doesn't, it'll give Prost the opportunity to catch him. Lap 18, race order. There is the leader, Senna. Prost is now 3.8 seconds behind him, and 6 seconds ahead of Boutsen, who is third. Mansell is fourth, 3 seconds behind Boutsen. Then it's Martin Brundle, 1 second behind Mansell in fifth position. De Cesaris is in sixth place. Modena in the second. Brabham is in seventh. Tarquini is eighth, and Capi is ninth. Then it's Alboreto and Nannini.
Yes, and of course Senna's sudden turn of speed has certainly stretched the leaders. Now the gaps are starting to spread. And Prost is now holding Senna.
And Boutsen is missing. That is Riccardo Patrese in the pits, actually, but the order now is Senna, Prost, Mansell. No, there is Boutsen. My apologies. No, it isn't. But let's just check, get a good close look at the helmet. But anyway, whichever of the Williams it is, it's Senna leading. Prost is second. Mansell is now in third position. In fourth place, it's Martin Brundle. Fifth is De Cesaris. There is the battle for fourth position, with De Cesaris coming through in fifth place. Up into sixth position has gone the second Brabham of Stefano Modena. So both the Chessington-based Brabham judges are in the top six and in World Championship point-scoring situations. Mansell, third place. 12 seconds behind Prost now, and you can see how far ahead he is of number 7, Martin Brundle, in fourth place. And the answer is very, very little ahead. And it was Thierry Boutsen in the pits. So the Williams team have had a race of misfortunes. Riccardo Patrese starting last, coming into the pits early to have that damage repaired to his rear wing. Then Thierry Boutsen from a strong third position into the pits. And now on the 19th lap, as you look at Mansell in third position, chased by Brundle in fourth. It's Senna leading Prost by 3.6 seconds. Prost, however, has just gone round in 1 minute 26.7, which is faster than he's been round before, but not as quick as Senna has. As Brundle exits Casino Square into the Mirabeau, the right-hander. Now, the gap between Brundle and Andrea De Cesaris, the charging Italian, and the Ford-powered Dallara is 2.8 seconds, and De Cesaris is fifth. He is 4 seconds ahead of Modena. This is the view of Thierry Boutsen in a very stationary, and it's been there for a long time, Williams-Renault. They're changing the rear wing, or they have changed the rear wing, so there would seem to be some sort of a problem with the Williams rear wing. There's Alan Chalice in the background just lifting the jack. This is Senna. Now, Senna is behind the major blocker of Grand Prix racing, René Arnoux. And now let's see where Prost is. Prost has been boxed in too. Senna passes Arnoux as they go up to Sainte-Devote, and Senna has now completed 19 laps in this 77-lap race. And it's Piquet in the sole Lotus because Nakajima did not qualify, chasing Arnoux.
And certainly then Senna will be very grateful for the power advantage that his Honda engine gave him, because he was able to pass Arnoux on the straight on the pure acceleration, and that is about the only way you can do it, really, sensibly.
And Prost is coming up to take Johnny Herbert in the Benetton, who is in 16th place. You can see the red and white McLaren with the Benetton in front. There is Herbert. Race order. Senna now leading by nearly 3 seconds. He's easing away from Prost, who still hasn't got past Herbert and certainly won't in the tunnel. I think he'll probably take him on the drop down to the chicane with a bit of luck. No, he won't. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. Alain Prost goes through, laps Johnny Herbert. Senna has lapped everybody up to the 12th position man, who is Eddie Cheever, and in this, the 20th lap, which is just under 1/3 distance. The race order is Senna, Prost, Mansell, Brundle, De Cesaris, and Modena.
And this is just the sort of situation that Prost hates.
And that is Raphanel out of his first Grand Prix in the Colony. The Frenchman Pierre-Henri Raphanel retiring on lap 21. Warwick is out, of course. Briard is out, and there is Prost coming up to catch Piquet and lap it.
Yes, I was about to say, this is the sort of situation that Prost really hates, with cars between, back markers between himself and Senna, and it's a situation that Senna has played to a good psychological advantage over Prost, in that he is prepared to take risks through the back markers, or so he leads Prost to believe. Prost having a look, but he's still stuck.
Yes, you see, that's René Arnoux and Nelson Piquet, and you saw the way that Senna just sliced past René Arnoux. Admittedly, he was in a better position on the course to do it. But now Prost has taken Piquet, he's coming up to Arnoux, and Senna has extended his lead to 4.2 seconds. And Prost has yet to take his fellow Frenchman, René Arnoux, who says, the reason I'm going so slow these days is that I'm used to turbo cars, and these normally aspirated engine cars are a very different kettle of fish to drive, he says.
And all I can say to that is bullshit.
So, anyway, there goes Arnoux in the Ford-powered Ligier. Now, this must be Alain Prost's opportunity to get past him, but he's dropped back an enormous amount. The Senna's lead has been increased by 50%, and still Arnoux is holding Prost back, and Senna is now 11 seconds ahead of Prost. Prost has got the same problem with Arnoux that he had with Gerhard Berger in the Ferrari last year, and 40-year-old René Arnoux, who is the oldest driver in the race, is doing absolutely nothing to help Prost.
And he is completely out of order. This is, I mean, it's really pathetic. Piquet, at least, was very good. Piquet got and Prost had to force his way by. Piquet got out of the way and made room, and Arnoux made no attempt to at all. Prost had to fight his way past, and really that is disgraceful for a man of his experience and everything in Grand Prix racing.
Yeah, Arnoux is 14th. He's got Piquet right behind him now, 15th. Johnny Herbert is right up with Piquet in 16th position, and in 17th place is Jonathan Palmer. And there it is. There is the train, and there is Jonathan Palmer. And here is René Arnoux. You can see what James and I have been talking about. Nelson Piquet, 3 times world champion in the Lotus 101, as we see a replay of Alain Prost at the Mirabeau, forcing his way through on the inside, followed by Piquet, who has the door shut in his face by Arnoux.
Yes, Piquet was unlucky not to get the jump then and get past Arnoux, because it's not going to be easy from now on.
Herbert and Palmer. There goes Jonathan Palmer in the 1989 018 Tyrrell. His teammate Michele Alboreto is ahead of him. We're on lap 24, and Senna with a new record lap of 1 minute 26.017 has increased the lead over Alain Prost to 15 seconds. But that's just as much due to René Arnoux as it was to Ayrton Senna. And we're with Brundle, who's got Prost second ahead of him, and Martin Brundle in the Brabham in 3rd position, and he is 7 seconds behind behind Mansell, who is in 3rd place. So Martin Brundle in 4th position, Senna, Prost, Mansell, Brundle, De Cesaris, Modena. Tarquini is still 7th in the AGS. Cappy is still 8th in the Dallara. Michele Alboreto, who finished 3rd in the Ferrari last year, is up to 9th in the Tyrrell, and there is the race leader on lap 24, Ayrton Senna, #1 world champion, 15 Grand Prix victories behind him, and a clear track in front of him, and a clear track behind him. Look at the gap. So now Ayrton Senna can, I would imagine, start to ease things a bit. He knows what the score is, particularly from his on-car radio and also from his pit signals. He is out on his own with a 15-second cushion between himself and Alain Prost. Senna, who actually had a 50-second lead last year here at Monaco, and allowed himself to get rattled by the fact that Prost had finally got past Berger to take 2nd position, and went off at this very point, Ayrton Senna, the portier, to retire and allow Alain Prost through for his 4th Monaco Grand Prix victory. And I can't see Ayrton Senna making that mistake again. 15 seconds clear of Prost, who is 11 seconds ahead of Mansell, who has got Brundle right behind him now, because Brundle is right up with the Ferrari. Brundle 4th, and he's 2 seconds ahead of the 5th place man, Andrea De Cesaris, who is 3.5 seconds ahead of Modena in 6th position. Tarquini 7th, Cappy 8th, Alboreto in 9th place, Nannini is 10th, Alio is 11th, Chiva is 12th, and will be the next man to be lapped by the man you are looking at, race leader Ayrton Senna. Prost, my apologies, that is Alain Prost, of course, in 2nd position, trying to reduce that 15-second gap between himself and the race leader. Now, let's look back and see how far Mansell is behind Prost.
Yes, and also we see Prost now has a pretty clear road, and it's now or never if he's going to be able to do anything about Senna getting away. He's got a clear track in front of him. Can he go quicker than Senna?
He's certainly not going quicker at the moment. He's going 0.3 of a second slower as Mansell comes up behind Piquet. There is Nigel Mansell about to lap Piquet, who is 14th and has still not got past the 15th Piquet, sorry, and Arnoux is 14th, and Mansell's got to try and lap both of them and keep Martin Brundle behind him. There is the Ferrari down to the Mirabeau. That's where Prost forced his way through. Now there, you saw Martin Brundle just 2 seconds behind the Ferrari now, and he's closing.
Yes, and a difficult time for Mansell, because Piquet, I'm sure he's not as worried about, but you can see René Arnoux 2 cars in front of him, and of course he can also see the Brabham closing up behind him.
And you saw Jonathan Palmer there, number 3 in the all-blue Tyrrell. He is in 17th position as Mansell comes down to the chicane. Now Herbert goes through, then Palmer, then... Now here is Martin Brundle, and he's got Nelson Piquet in the Lotus 101 in front of him. Number 11, Nelson Piquet, 3 times world champion. It hasn't been much of a year for him so far. He's yet to score any world championship points in 1989. And Arnoux has now got Mansell behind him. Now this could be Nigel Mansell's opportunity to get past. Up to Sandervoort. Right on the gearbox of the Ford-powered Ligier, storming up the hill to the Massenet. Pulls out, has a look. Arnoux closes the door. Frantic waving of the blue flags by the marshals, but I think René Arnoux is colourblind as far as blue flags are concerned. And this is Mansell's opportunity, but again Arnoux closes the door. Mansell goes through.
It is a disgrace that he has to fight his way through like that, and Brundle goes through brilliantly. He jumped him there, and that was very good opportunist driving by Martin Brundle to get through, and Piquet managed finally, after all this time, to get past the dreaded Arnoux. So Arnoux did his best, but this time he was jumped by everyone.
And Arnoux has now got behind him the equally determined Andrea de Cesaris. Down to the chicane. There goes Palmer through. There's the Minardi, the Williams. Now here's Johnny Herbert going round the swimming pool complex of corners. Ayrton Senna is extending his lead. He's lapping consistently some 0.2 of a second faster than Alain Prost, and the gap is now 16 seconds as you look at Arnoux. And we were about to have a replay, but Arnoux is keeping everybody back, and we are on lap 28 in this 77-lap race. There is still a long way to go, but the McLaren is reliable, the Honda is reliable. That is Gabriele Tarquini in 7th place, followed by the Dallara, and here is Martin Brundle. Now, how far ahead with Brundle in 3rd position? In 3rd position, I say again. How far ahead of Martin Brundle is Alain Prost? And the answer is a long way, some 20 seconds. And there he goes. There goes Martin Brundle, and you can see that he is ahead of Nigel Mansell's Ferrari. Down to 4th position has gone Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari. We didn't see it on the screen, but I do promise you that Martin Brundle is in a podium position. That means the first 3. He is in 3rd position in his 3rd Grand Prix in the Brabham Judd as the McLaren comes up towards us round Sandervoort. Alain Prost has cut the gap now. He's now lapping faster than Ayrton Senna. He's cut the gap to 15 seconds, and there are still some 49 laps to go. And if anybody is capable of reducing the gap to nothing and passing Ayrton Senna eventually, it's Alain Prost, and he's the only person on the circuit at the moment who's able to do that, potentially. Cutting very tight into the hairpin at Lowe's. Down to the 2nd gear right-hander. Now the Portier into the tunnel. 3rd gear, 4th gear, 5th gear, 160 miles an hour as he bursts out of the tunnel in 6th gear. Down to the chicane.
Stefano Modena is now putting De Cesaris under a lot of pressure, but De Cesaris is a pretty similar animal to René Arnoux, and drives a very wide car indeed, no matter who built it.
And the encouraging thing, apart from the fact that we've had a tremendous scrap at the front in this Monaco Grand Prix, is that there are still comparatively few retirements in this race, which is famous for claiming cars. Modena is on his way. We've only got 4 retirements: Derek Warwick, Pierluigi Martini, Olivier Grouillard and Pierre-Henri Rapinel. And we look at Nigel Mansell, 4th position, trying to close the gap between himself and Brundle. Senna leads by under 15 seconds now. because Prost is still lapping faster than Ayrton Senna, grimly attempting to close the gap. Nigel Mansell is lapping slower than Brundle, and you can see that the Englishman in the Brabham is pulling away. So it's Senna first, Prost second, Brundle third, Mansell in fourth position coming up to Sainte-Devote. Now we're waiting for the fifth place man to go through, and he does precisely that. Andrea De Cesaris 9 seconds behind Mansell. Nigel really going for it. The Italians love a fighter, and that's why they're so keen on Nigel Mansell. He never ever gives up. He doesn't understand the meaning of the phrase, and he's certainly not giving up now, because Mansell is lapping over half a second faster than Brundle. He's coming back at the Brabham. Prost is closing on Senna slowly but surely. Brundle is in a strong third position, but getting weaker all the time as you watch the Scarlet Ferrari of Mansell coming down into the chicane.
It's beginning to look like really the story of last season between Senna and Prost, in that Prost rather in his race trim, when he's got a clear track in front of him, marginally quicker than Senna, and then all they need is a bit of traffic, and all that work as he chips away to Senna's lead goes straight out of the window, and Senna goes bursting through the traffic, and Prost is a bit tardy.
And now Arnoux has got Johnny Herbert bearing down on him. Johnny Herbert, whose walking is still distinctly dodgy after his dreadful crash in Formula 3000 last year. You can see, there is Arnoux, there is Herbert. Behind Herbert is Jonathan Palmer, number 3 in the Tyrrell. And Mansell is slowing down. Nigel Mansell is definitely slowing down. No doubt about that. He's down to 5th position. De Cesaris has passed him. On this, the 31st lap, Nigel Mansell, who had dropped from 3rd to 4th, has dropped from 4th to 5th. We'll see it no doubt shortly. Senna 16 seconds ahead of Prost. Brundle is still 3rd. De Cesaris in the Dallara up into 4th position. I can't remember a Dallara ever having been as high up as that in a Grand Prix before. And there is the Williams going through, and Mansell is out. There is Nigel Mansell retiring from the Monaco Grand Prix on lap 31. So for the second Grand Prix in succession, 2 out of 3, Nigel Mansell has had, sadly, to retire the Ferrari, having won in Brazil, having fought his way up to 3rd position in the San Marino Grand Prix, only to retire. Is now out of the Monaco Grand Prix, where similarly he held a good 3rd position. And he walks back the long walk to the fence. Arnoux, Herbert, Palmer, Patrese, Mansell, waving sadly to the crowd as those midfield men plunge through the swimming pool section. And Nigel will be walking back to report to Cesare Fiorio, the Ferrari team manager, and John Barnard, his car's designer. I'm guessing what the problem is. I suspect it is most likely to have been the gearbox, which, though improved, this new semi-automatic gearbox is thought by many people still not to be quite up to the job. And now then, on lap 32, Senna is still lapping slower than Prost, lap by lap as he comes up to people, but then he puts on a spurt, as James has said, and there is Ayrton Senna coming up to catch Michele Alboreto, who is in 8th position. Now you'll get an opportunity to see the new 018 Tyrrell. There it is, Alboreto, 8th position, about to be lapped by Ayrton Senna, race leader, ex-Ferrari driver, Alboreto, down to the Mirabeau. Prost, meantime, with another lap, half a second faster than Ayrton Senna, has reduced the gap to 14.5 seconds. But that is now a big deficit at this stage of the race. Ayrton Senna goes round the portiere into the tunnel, and Nigel Mansell not looking over happy. He'll be very hot, of course, having sat in that Ferrari for 30 laps, working away, and now he's got the walk back. And Senna is now right with Michele Alboreto, approaching the point where Alboreto took Mansell off last year. This is it. Senna undoubtedly not going as quickly as he could here. There's nothing he can do about getting past Alboreto at this point, but he's coming up to Saint-Devote where he certainly can.
Yes, you watch the power of the Honda down the straight now. Can he swamp him? Yep, Senna just outpowers him round the outside. And he's been quite lucky a couple of times in that he's come from slower cars, like he came from Arnoux really for the first time on the approach to Saint-Devote and was able to get straight past him. And that's lost the fun. We've lost our picture.
And here comes Nelson Piquet, number 11, Nelson Piquet, who is in 13th position, about to be caught and lapped by Martin Brundle in 3rd place in the Brabham Judd. And if Martin keeps it up, he's going to have a podium position, 3rd position, and that would be an absolutely terrific achievement by the Englishman. He's had 1 second in his career, only to have it taken away from him on a disqualification point. And sure enough, Mansell's problem, we have now been told, was a gearbox problem. And there goes... Now, there is Nelson Piquet being challenged by one of the Delaras. Brundle, with Martin Brundle, 3rd position, 27 seconds behind Prost, who is consistently now lapping faster than Senna, but primarily, I think, because Ayrton Senna had that problem getting past the Tyrrell of Michele Alboreto, which Prost will soon be faced with. And now the McLaren is coming up to Ivan Capelli in the 891. This is the new march. This is Capelli in the new 891 march. His teammate Mauricio Gugelmin, of course, disappeared some time ago. And now Alain, now we're with Martin Brundle. How far is he behind Alain Prost? It's well over 20 seconds. He's coming round the swimming pool, down to the Rascasse. He's going to go hard right here in 2nd gear. Accelerate away round this next right-hander. Then there's a bit of a left kink. He's got the pits on his right, underneath the bridge, past our commentary boxes on the left, underneath the 2nd bridge, up to Saint-Devote, 3rd gear, 70 miles an hour. And Martin Brundle is now 26 seconds behind Prost, who is 14.5 seconds behind Senna, who is leading the race on lap 35 out of 77, coming up to half distance.
Yes, and things are pretty settled now for Martin Brundle. I don't think he'll be entertaining any ideas about being able to catch either of the McLarens ahead. At the same time, he's got a very comfortable lead over his teammate Stefano Modena, who has got past the Cesaris. So Modena now in 4th place, and some 25 seconds behind Brundle.
And if you're wondering why we're not getting any pictures from Casino Square, it's because the camera has gone down, so there will be a gap from going up the hill where Senna is now until we see them coming down the Mirabeau. And Senna now is on his 35th lap.
Yes, well, the race is all fairly settled now, fairly stalemate, and so that gives me a chance to mention something that I had a letter, as I do from time to time, on very much the same subject last week, asking me whether I'd ever noticed that when the fact that if a car is half a second, say, ahead of another car, at 20 miles an hour that is X yards, and at 180 miles an hour that's a lot more yards. Well, slight insult to my intelligence yes, I had noticed, and it's been going on a long time, these letters, but the fact of the matter is...
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, James, but Prost has slowed right down and Brundle is catching him fast. Prost's last lap took 1 minute and 51 seconds, which is some 21 seconds slower than he'd been before, and I would hope that soon Martin Brundle and the camera that we're looking at now, will be seeing Alain Prost come into sight and getting closer and closer all the time. It's Brundle in Brundle in 3rd position, and his teammate Stefano Modena in 4th place. So the 2 Brabham Judds are going supremely well. Sorry, James.
Yes, thanks, Murray. I don't want to spoil the race by banging on about this, But my point is, yes, of course one has noticed that. That's fairly obvious. But one of the things that, in all the years that I've been receiving similar letters, because this is quite a common occurrence that people write in and point this out to me for some extraordinary reason, have they noticed, though, that there is something that actually does increase that gap? And here we look.
Yeah, well, you can see there, Piquet going out extremely wide. De Cesaris hitting him, and Nelson Piquet is out of the race, and Andrea De Cesaris gesticulating violently at Nelson Piquet, who is obviously extremely unhappy, and well he might be. And there is the number 22 Dallara of Andrea De Cesaris in the pits.
Yes, De Cesaris was actually trying to lap Piquet at the time. And here we see it again with the Williams creeping around the outside, avoiding the debris. I don't think he managed to get round without hitting any lumps and bumps. And of course now the cars have got to be disentangled, and a very dramatic incident right in the middle of the road.
Arnoux goes through, Herbert goes through, Patrese goes through, Palmer goes through, Martini goes through, Caffey goes through, and Sala, who is still running, goes through. And there is the McLaren going through. Now let's see who is next up. The marshals well out. De Cesaris still in the pits, and we're now on lap 37 with Ayrton Senna leading Prost, and there is Alain Prost in second place, 35 seconds behind his teammate, but now only 9 seconds ahead of Martin Brundle in third position. Stefano Medina 21 seconds behind Brundle in fourth position. Senna has lapped everybody up to sixth position. In seventh place it is Michele Alboreto, showing signs of taking the Tyrrell into the points in his first drive in the new car. Prost is again closing marginally on Senna, but the gap is 34 seconds.
Yes, and I think that 20-second deficit, he must have been may have been held up by that problem at the station hairpin.
Down to the chicane again, Senna up with Arnoux. Now we're with Brundle, 9 seconds ahead of the car that we were just with and have rapidly left is Alain Prost in second position. Now, how is Ayrton Senna going to cope with the dreaded René Arnoux? We'll soon see. And behind Ayrton Senna, and Senna has lapped him, is Johnny Herbert, who is in 13th position at the present moment.
Right, and I think Senna will do what he did a few laps ago and just power past him on the straight. But going back to what I was trying to get across before is that over the years, all these people that have written in to me pointing this problem out, nobody has pointed out the much more important problem of why the cars spread under acceleration, particularly on a slow circuit like this. And that is very simple, because the driver behind cannot put his foot on the throttle until the guy in front has done it, because these cars have so much acceleration in low gears that you just hit the other guy straight up the bumpy. And therefore you have to wait. Therefore he always gets the drop on you. Therefore that is what makes overtaking one of the factors that makes overtaking so particularly difficult on a circuit like this, because the other guy gets the power on first. You have to wait for him, and then he goes away.
And Martin Brundle is getting the power on, because he is now only 7.5 seconds behind Alain Prost. As you look at them, there's Piquet walking in. You just saw Piquet walking through our picture and your picture, and the race order at the present moment on this, the 39th lap out of 77, is Senna leading Prost by 33 seconds. Brundle is in third position, just 7 seconds behind Alain Prost. In fourth position, Medina. Fifth is Tarquini in the AGS, who was sixth in the San Marino Grand Prix. Great drive. And sixth is Cappy. Now, there is the Dallara. Here is René Arnoux, then Herbert.
And bits flying off Herbert's car there. You can see that piece of bodywork on the road, and so Herbert got into a tangle and he slowed right down.
And there is the confirmation as Johnny Herbert limps into the pits in the Benetton Ford. That will put him down the running into the pit. Now let's see what they do. Under goes the jack, up goes the back of the car. Off come the rear and the front wheels and tyres. And the seconds are ticking away for Johnny Herbert, with Ayrton Senna now on his 39th lap. He's just gone round in 1 minute 27.8, which is some 1.6 seconds slower than his fastest ever lap. And Tarquini is up into 5th position. Race order now with Senna well on his way. He's got the race in his pocket once again, provided he just keeps rolling. We're at one half distance now, half distance. Senna leading Prost by 35.5 seconds, and the gap between Prost second and Martin Brundle third is, I'm just checking now, 7.5 seconds, no change there. Waiting for Modena to come through, and he's 23 seconds behind Brundle. Modena 4th, Tarquini is 5th, and that is Eddie Cheever, who has stalled his arrows at Lowe's hairpin. The marshals frantically getting him out of the way as the Coloni comes down of Roberto Moreno. And out of the race has gone Gugelmin in last year's March 881. Finish for the Brazilian. Gugelmin with his compatriot Ayrton Senna leading by a long way.
Yes, and after what appeared to be a very reliable start to the race, after some 20 laps we only had, I think, 3 cars out of the race, and suddenly they're going down like 9 pins.
Yes, Warwick out, Martini out, Griard out, Rapinel, Mansell, Piquet, Gugelmin. Here's the replay. Let's see what happens as Cheever spins the arrows. There goes the march to the right, followed by Martin Brundle.
And I was wondering how Cheever managed to get into that position, because that is a most extraordinary mistake to make, although there may have been oil there, because if there wasn't oil, that really was a serious beginner's mistake. But to justify it for Eddie, it does look as if there was some sort of problem on the track that he maybe didn't see, because the marshals are now attending to it.
As Martin Brundle bears down on and passes Capelli's 1989 car, and this is the oil that Cheever missed, but Martin Brundle keeps to the right of it.
Yes, and obviously somebody is pouring oil out, because there were lots of oil flags going down into Mirabeau just from that previous shot as they were approaching. So quite obviously somebody has dumped a lot of oil around that area of the circuit.
Now let's just take a deep breath and work out what is happening at the front of this race. We are on lap 42 of the 1989 Monaco Grand Prix, and in the lead is Ayrton Senna. He's lapping in about 1.5 minutes. He has slowed down considerably, so he knows what he's doing. Alain Prost, of course, is in second place. The McLaren's first and second. There he goes round the left-hander at Lowe's. 33 seconds now behind Ayrton Senna. There is the race leader, Ayrton Senna, going into the tunnel on his 42nd lap. And Martin Brundle lost 7 seconds on 1 lap, obviously because of that oil problem at Lowe's hairpin. He's now 16 seconds behind Prost. That's some 9 seconds more than at one time he was behind the Frenchman. And Stefano Modena is just coming through in 4th position. So it's McLaren first, McLaren second, Brabham Judd third, Brabham Judd fourth, that is Stefano Modena. And Ayrton Senna has lapped everybody up to the 5th position man, and now he's lapped him, and that's Tarquini, 5th, 1 place better than he was 2 weeks ago in San Marino. Cathy is 6th in the Dallara. Alboreto is still 7th in the Tyrrell. Nannini is 8th. Capelli is 9th. Cheever, who we saw spin, is in 10th position, and Ayrton Senna is on his 43rd lap as we look at the McLaren of Alain Prost, 4 times a winner at Monaco, and I wonder if he is settling for second place.
Yes, I'm sure he will be now. He won't be really. Senna's a little bit out of reach to try and chase, so Prost, I'm sure, will be more interested in capturing 6 points, nursing his second place, and of course keeping at bay the threat from Martin Brundle, who's having a wonderful Monte Carlo Grand Prix. He's some 15 or 16 seconds behind Prost at the moment, but certainly in range if Prost has any sort of a mechanical problem. Brundle could easily pick that up.
Well, here at Monaco it is 4:45 in the afternoon. In Australia it is 12:45 a.m. I know that thousands and thousands and thousands of enthusiastic Grand Prix followers in Australia listen to us and watch us. welcome to you, and I hope you're enjoying your late night viewing.
Yes, please, and may I also say good-eye to Australia and good-eye to Alan Jones, particularly, who I know is in the studio. I never get to hear his voice because we fire down one-way traffic, but good-eye, Alan.
Lap 43, Senna goes through and takes Nannini, who we have seen very little of in this race. Alessandro Nannini, the Italian in the Benetton Ford, and it is beginning to look as though last year's Benetton, the 188, is now past it in the same way that the March last year's car is past it, and Ian Phillips and Adrian Newey, the top men at March, decided to race their new car, and a lot of people, and I'm one of them, are hoping that the new Benetton with the new Ford V8 1989 engine will be racing in Mexico and giving the McLarens more of a run for their money. That is the diagram that shows you the gap between Ayrton Senna, who's just going through the tunnel, and you can see that he's almost exactly half a lap ahead of the green spot, which is Alain Prost, as Senna goes into the swimming pool. And there is Prost going down to the Mirabeau, the right-hander. Now the little drop down to Lowe's hairpin, 30 miles an hour, just about the slowest part on the whole course. And Ayrton Senna is leading Prost by 36 seconds. Prost is 14 seconds ahead of Martin Brundle, still third.
Going back to what you were saying a couple of minutes ago, Murray, I'm certainly looking forward to the advent of the new Benetton Ford, because although Cosworth, Ford and Benetton are trying to play down, keep a low profile about the performance of the new engine, I hear rumours that they're very pleased with it. It's pretty good, and it will be good for Grand Prix racing, good for everybody to see McLaren's challenged and challenged healthily.
Now that was Alain Prost bundling its way past Sala in the Minardi, and this is Martin Brundle trying to do something about Alain Prost, like catch him as he goes through the swimming pool complex into the sweeping left-hander on the way to the Ras-Cas again. The paddock on his left. Now the right-hander, which leads into the left kink that you see, pits on the right into what is laughingly called the start and finish straight. It's anything but as he approaches Saint-Devote, bursts his way up the hill towards the Massenet, and Piquet is almost home, and Martin Brundle is starting remorselessly to catch Prost. He's brought the gap down from 14.5 seconds to 12.5 seconds. Martin Brundle is actually the fastest man on the course now. 1 minute 27.9 seconds. Number 7, Martin Brundle, 29 years old, from Kings Lynn in his 58th Grand Prix, and he is lapping half a second faster than Prost and marginally faster than Ayrton Senna, who is extending his lead over Prost, the Frenchman. And Martin Brundle coming up to Eddie Cheever now in the Arrows, and Cheever is approaching the place where he spun. My apologies, it's Modena. We cut from Brundle to another Brabham, and that is Stefano Modena in 4th position, trying to lap Eddie Cheever. Race order: Senna, Prost, Brundle, Modena 4th, Tarquini 5th, Capi 6th, Alboreto 7th, Nannini 8th, Capelli is 9th, Cheever is 10th, Arnoux is 11th, and Jonathan Palmer in 12th place has not succeeded in getting past the Ligier of René Arnoux. 13th is Sala, 14th is Boutsen, 2 laps down. Then in 15th place, Roberto Moreno, also 2 laps down. 16th is Johnny Herbert, 3 laps down. And that's about it. Now, here we are with Stefano Modena, and you can see the arrows of Eddie Cheever, who is now, I'm glad to say, completely comfortable in the arrows, it having been altered to accommodate his height.
And those pictures were a very good representation of how you had to let the guy in front put the power on first, because you saw, despite the fact that Modena is considerably quicker round a lap on his own than Cheever, and is in fact lapping Cheever, when they get into the slow corners, you see, and then the arrows just goes away.
Yes, goes away down towards the Mirabeau, and Modena goes through. I think Eddie Cheever decided to give him best and let him through, as he should do, of course, because he was being lapped by Modena. Fourth position, you can see the caption there, Senna, Prost, Brundle, Modena in fourth position, followed by Gabriele Tarquini, who has certainly been one of the finds of Grand Prix racing this year. Gerhard Berger has just walked into the box behind me, and while you are looking at Modena and Chiva going through the chicane, I'm taking a quick look over my left shoulder, and I can tell you that Gerhard is looking in good form, smiling and talking. He's going to do a bit of commentary for Austrian television, and those very thin gloves are just hiding some very small dressings across the palm of his hand. And Cathy has gone up, while I'm talking to you, into fifth position ahead of Gabriele Tarquini. So, race order now. Senna first, Prost second, Brundle third, Modena in fourth position. Alex Cathy, the little Italian in the Dallara, up into fifth place ahead of Gabriele Tarquini in sixth position. Seventh is Alboreto. He's only a second behind Tarquini, so that's a battle we would like to see. Eighth is Nannini, and the Benettons are certainly out of their depth here at Monaco. And there goes Stefano Modena. Down to those. That's Eddie Cheever, who has been lapped behind him. There is the Williams going through after Modena, and Eddie Cheever, the tallest man in Grand Prix racing, goes into the tunnel. That is Gabriele Tarquini, number 40 in the AGS. He's taken the place of the stricken Philippe Streff, who is still in hospital in Paris after that tremendous crash he had for practice in Brazil. I'm glad to say that he is making some progress, Philippe Streff. Up. And that's the Coloni. We know that Raffanel is out, so now Roberto Moreno, the tremendously popular and likeable Brazilian, who was a Ferrari tester last year, is out of the Grand Prix here and parked his car at Massenet. Alboreto. Now Alboreto is really going for it, as Roberto Moreno is pushed in with the order Senna, Prost, Brundle, Modena, Cathy, Tarquini. Alboreto is starting to challenge Gabriele Tarquini in the AGS, and hopefully we'll see that soon, because he's in sixth position, Tarquini in the points. Or is he? That is Tarquini. Tarquini touring, so that means to say that with Gabriele Tarquini out of the race, that means to say that Michele Alboreto, in his first race in the new 018 Tyrrell, is in the points. And Jonathan Palmer finished, of course, in fifth position at San Marino, so this is tremendous encouragement for Ken Tyrrell, whose team is unsponsored, amazingly, and has got this new Harvey Postlethwaite designed car with Jean-Claude Migeot doing the aerodynamics. And we're looking now at Alain Prost coming up on the inside of the Dallara at the Massenet, and going very wide indeed. And off is craned Roberto Moreno's car. There are big, gigantically powerful cranes all around this circuit here at Monaco to lift cars out of the way, because the last thing you want, of course, is a car parked on the racing line. We are on lap 49 now. Senna leads Prost by now 48 seconds, which is almost the lead that he had last year when he went off. But last year, unlike this year, Prost was not second for most of the race, and I'm sure that Ayrton Senna, being the cool and calculated chap that he is not going to make this year the mistake that he made last year. So he leads Prost by the thick end of a minute now, 48 seconds. Brundle in third position. And still, Stefano Modena is in fourth position ahead of Cathy. Alboreto up into the points in sixth place. Nannini up a place into seventh. Capelli up into eighth position, and then Eddie Cheever is now ninth.
Yes, I should think Senna's mistake of last year is still haunting him. I should think he's giving it a lot of thought right now. It was at about this stage of the race that he threw it away, I think there's no danger of him doing it again.
And effectively, there are now 15 cars in the race, with Johnny Herbert in 15th place, 3 laps adrift. Senna leading, Prost second, Brundle third. And Brundle is now 2/3 of a lap. He's 61 seconds behind Ayrton Senna in the lead. 4th is Medina, 5th is Caffey, 6th is Alboreto, 7th Nannini, and in 8th place Ivan Capelli. As we look at Jonathan Palmer, who is 10th, and now we are into the pits with Martin Brundle. You see that, and out of the car, Martin. Well, this is what I'm at a loss for words, because I can't understand why Brundler's leapt out of the car, but they're still holding it on the jacks off the ground. He's obviously not retiring. They're doing something to the car. This is a marvellous use of the on-car camera, at which it disappears.
Yes, and they were quite clearly working on something sort of low down in the cockpit, so maybe something had fallen off in there and was bashing him around, or whatever. One can only speculate.
Well, you watch the television, I'll do the same, because I'm looking across while you also look at Alain Prost, because Martin Brundle's car is parked just to my left in front of me in the pit lane. I can tell you they're still working furiously on it, but it means to say now that Modena has gone up into 3rd position, and Caffey will very shortly be in 4th place. Indeed, Caffey is now in 4th place. Senna has lapped everybody up to Modena, who is in 3rd position. He's leading Prost, who is now going quite considerably slower in lap times, and you're looking at Alain Prost now than Senna. Alboreto is up into 5th place. Nannini is in the points, and there it looks like one of the arrows. Well, I can tell you that it's not an arrow, and I'm just trying to look through the murk and the smoke. And there is the answer. Luis Perez Sala, the Spaniard, with that looks like steam rather than smoke.
And going back to poor Martin Brundle, because that really is a great shame for him that he's effectively out of the running now, but at the same time, I'm sure he'll be a very, very happy man, because he's driven a fabulous race. He's out-qualified Modena and out-raced him, and that, for sure, at the moment is very, very important to him indeed, and that he certainly responded superbly.
And just for the record, it certainly wasn't steam, and it certainly was smoke that was coming from the engine compartment of Sala's Ford-powered Minardi. And Martin Brundle is out of the pits. As I talk to you and you look at Nannini, Martin Brundle, I'm wondering, because this is not an unknown occurrence, whether the fire extinguisher came loose in the compartment and dropped around the footwell where it would have interfered with the pedals. Anyway, at the present moment, Senna is 50 seconds now ahead of Alain Prost, with Modena in 3rd position, nearly a full lap behind the flying McLaren Honda of Ayrton Senna. 4th is Alex Caffey, 5th is Michele Alboreto, in 6th position is Nannini, 7th is Capelli, 8th is Chiva, Jonathan Palmer is coming up in 9th position, and the reason Martin Brundle stopped was to have his battery changed, or rather to have his Brabham's battery changed, and has obviously dropped down the field, but we can expect to see him really flying, and I'm wondering how close he will get to the fastest lap of the day so far, which is that of Ayrton Senna, 1 minute 26.017, and now we're with Martin Brundle, and I think we're going to see some really sparkling driving. He's going for it.
Yes, unfortunately, a battery change is a pretty major job. It's right in the middle of the cockpit. And that's Sala wandering back, having a little look round. See how the others are getting on.
Luis Sala from Barcelona. His 17th Grand Prix, and he's walking home from it. Martin Brundle rejoined in 10th position behind Jonathan Palmer, who is now 9th, with his teammate Michele Alboreto in the points. Now, here is Martin. That's an A. And it's Jonathan Palmer ahead of him. So we're with the battle for 9th position, and Martin Brundle squeezes through, forces Jonathan Palmer out and gains a place.
Yes, that looked a little bit on the marginal side to me, but Brundle really squeezed his way in, and I think one has to, he'll have owe a lot of thanks to Jonathan Palmer for giving him the space, which he really didn't have to do at that point.
Alain Prost, the gap is still much the same, because while Senna has gone through now, and he's on his 54th lap in this 77-lap race, controlling it very much from the front. He speeded up a bit, actually. 1 minute 26.8 was Ayrton Senna's last lap. We're waiting for Alain Prost to come through, and here he is doing so now. And the gap between the two McLarens is now 51 seconds, with Senna lapping over 2 seconds faster than Prost, who's being waved down. He speeded up a bit, actually. 1 minute 26.8 was Ayrton Senna's last lap. We're waiting for Alain Prost to come through, and here he is doing so now. And the gap between the two McLarens is now 51 seconds, with Senna lapping over 2 seconds faster than Prost, who's being waved down as he climbs up the hill into the Massenet, round the Hotel de Paris, turns right in Casino Square, drops down the hill with the Metropole Hotel on his left now, into the Mirabeau, and here is Martin Brundle on a replay.
Yes, and I think this is probably the instant where he passed Palmer. You see Palmer just going out of the picture on the left, and very tight indeed. So his left front wheel there, lock, and we didn't really see much of it from that angle.
And that move took Martin Brundle up from 10th position to 9th position, and he's going to make a few more up. Here's the replay again. And you see that's Michele Alboreto in front too. So Martin Brundle squeezes through with both his wheels on the curb at the right-hander, drops down to the left-hander, lows.
And I think if and when he watches an action replay of that manoeuvre, he'll be very grateful to Jonathan Palmer, because I think Martin would be the first to admit he overcommitted himself there and got himself into a bit of trouble, and it was only the good sense and the alertness of Palmer that avoided it coming together.
Well, you're watching René Arnoux, who is in 11th place. And the race order on this, the 55th lap, is Senna, Prost, Modena, Cappi, Alboreto 5th, Nannini in 6th position, Capelli in 7th place. Only Senna, Prost and Modena are on the same lap, and Modena is not going to be on the same lap very much longer, because he's going to be caught and passed by Senna, and maybe we'll be able to see that from his on-car camera. In 6th position behind Alboreto, it's Nannini. 7th is Capelli. Then 2 laps adrift in 8th position is Eddie Cheever, being chased hard by Martin Brundle, 9th ahead of Palmer, 10th. René Arnoux is 11th, and Thierry Boutsen, who rejoined the race some time ago after his pit stop, is in 12th position, but well down. And that is Alessandro Nannini in 7th place. Modena. Now watch, see they're keeping away from the edge of the curve there because of the oil that they knew was laid down earlier on. And Ivan Capelli is now stuck behind René Arnoux. And Capelli is in 6th position, so he's coming up to try to lap the Frenchman. Let's see if he succeeds. There's Capelli 6th, and he goes through at the chicane, squeezes past René Arnoux, who is in 11th place, has been lapped by Capelli. And you can see that Capelli in turn has got Modena behind him on the circuit, but very much ahead of him on the race, because Modena is nearly a full lap ahead of Ivan Capelli, the Italian, in the new March. And now Modena's coming up to take Arnoux. Modena, who is in 3rd place, Arnoux, who is 11th, and we're watching, and Senna is catching both of them. Senna to catch Modena, who is 3rd, Modena to lap Arnoux, who is 11th. Let's watch it. So there's the fastest man on the course, Ayrton Senna. being held back by Modena and Arnoux. Is this going to give Alain Prost an opportunity to close up? Now, Senna's going to need all the courage, determination and grit that he's got to get past this lot. Modena squeezes through. Arnoux shuts the door. Senna dives through on the inside. So that's one place gained. And that's the most difficult one as far as Ayrton Senna was concerned, because I think that he will dispose of Modena more easily.
And I thought Senna was pretty brave then to follow Modena through on the Mirabeau there, and thought he took a bit of a risk, but he got away with it. And now, of course, he is past Modena. A little bit of a brake block there from one of them. I saw a puff of smoke. Everybody through without damage, and the threat of Arnoux goes quiet again for a while.
Only two men are now on the same lap, 57, and they are Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost, because Senna has lapped Modena, who is in third position. Caffey is fourth. Alboreto is fifth. In sixth position, it is Capelli. So the new march in its first race, the 891, with Ian Phillips, Adrian Newey and Tim Holloway determined to race it and get some racing mileage, are being paid back by an in-points position for Ivan Capelli in the new march, who's yet to score points in this 1989 season. And you're looking at Alain Prost, who I think has not got a hope of catching Ayrton Senna unless something pretty dramatic happens to the Brazilian, like car trouble, which is frankly inconceivable these days with the McLaren chassis and the Honda engine, or Senna being blocked by somebody, or hitting a patch of oil or something like that. Senna has got the race in his pocket, provided he just keeps going. And he's now on lap 58, so there's nearly 20 laps to go, but Prost would have to gain something like 2 seconds a lap to catch him, never mind get past him. And that is Gabriele Tarquini walking in. Very, very sadly, I'm sure, because he took an absolutely super sixth position at San Marino in the AGS, which had only scored points once before in the hands of Roberto Moreno. And Tarquini had worked his way well up into the points only to have to retire. And here is Alain Prost. The gap now 46 seconds, but Prost is lapping 3 seconds faster than Senna, but I'm quite sure it is because Ayrton Senna has just decided he's going to take things very, very easily indeed, knowing that he can do so, give away seconds a lap to the hard-chasing Alain Prost and still win this race. Modena in third position, Caffey in fourth place. They're both on the same lap, as is the fifth position man Michele Alboreto and the sixth position man Capelli, and Alboreto going absolutely superbly. A lot of people said that Michele was over the hill after he had left Ferrari, but he's giving the lie to that in this race. Prost. Now let's see what Prost's lap time is. Senna's just gone round in 1 minute 27.7. And Alain Prost, chasing hard in second position, has just put up the fastest lap of the race. Prost has gone round in 1 minute 25.9, so he obviously hasn't given up, Alain Prost, because on lap 58 there is a new lap record by Alain Prost, who is certainly chasing very hard. Now there is Senna, and the gap is just under 44 seconds, with Senna coming through to complete a lap very shortly.
Yes, I think realistically, though, Prost isn't really giving chase to Senna, because I'm sure he knows that Senna is capable of responding so long as his car is mechanically healthy. There's nothing really that Prost can do about chasing for a win.
Well, we've got two ways of checking, one of which is with my stopwatch, and I've got it running on Alain Prost now, waiting for it to come through and complete the lap as we ride with Stefano Modena chasing the Williams in front of him, and Senna well on his way on this, his 60th lap out of 77. The gap was something like 47 seconds between him and Alain Prost, who should be appearing in my sight. Indeed, I can see him now, and he goes through, and the gap is 40.8 seconds. Prost is definitely, and he's gone round in, he's broken the lap record again. Alain Prost has just gone round in 1 minute 25.5, and the gap is down to 41 seconds.
Well, the only thing that I can think of that maybe has suddenly spurred Prost on like this is that maybe over the radio he's heard that Senna has got some sort of a problem with his car, because there is no other reason for Prost to be going this quickly at this stage of the race when he's that far behind Senna and a long, long way in front of Stefano Modena, some 48 seconds ahead of Modena, some 40 seconds behind Senna. But something seems to have got into him, and so we'll sit back and watch what happens.
Yes, and meantime, let's give a very, very big hand to the man you're watching now, number 8, Stefano Modena, who is only in his 14th Grand Prix. Last year, he drove in the absolutely dreadful Eurobrunn and was not able to demonstrate the very real talent he has. He's grasping his opportunity in 1989 with both hands, because he's in a superb motor car, the Brabham Judd. He's in 3rd position and looking like finishing on the podium for the first time in his career, a career which I'm sure is very capable of extending to become world champion one day. He is that good. Now, meantime, Senna is fighting back. 1 minute 27.1 compared with Prost 1 minute 28.2. The gap remains at 42 seconds. Senna leads on lap 61 out of 77 by 42 seconds from Alain Prost. Modena is still 3rd. Cappy is still in 4th position, so it's McLaren 1st, McLaren 2nd. Brabham 3rd, Dallara in 4th position. In 5th place, the Tyrrell of Michele Alboreto, and in 6th position, the March of Ivan Capelli. 7th is Nannini in the Benetton. 8th is Eddie Cheever in the Arrows. 9th is Martin Brundle, fighting back after having lost all that time changing his battery in the pits. And we're looking now at Capelli, chased by Boutsen. Capelli, who is, I remind you, in 6th position. Boutsen 2 laps behind him in 11th place. And there is the confirmation. You can see only 2 people on the same lap, Senna and Prost. And the 1989 Monaco Grand Prix is drawing to a conclusion. 16 laps to go. Capelli and Boutsen. A long, long distance between them in the race. Not very much distance between them on the track. There's the new March with its new sponsorship. There's Boutsen. And you're actually looking at the 1988 type Williams with the new Renault V10 engine, because the new car, the Patrick Head design new car, has yet to appear. They're very satisfied with the performance of both the car and the engine. And you can see that Boutsen is being caught by the Brabham Judd behind him, and Senna is now on his 62nd lap and extending the gap. So any thoughts that we, or I suspect anyone else may have had, that Alain Prost could do something about Ayrton Senna are being very rudely dispelled by the Brazilian, who will certainly want to establish, or attempt to establish, psychological dominance as Boutsen goes through and takes Capelli. Senna will be trying very hard indeed, particularly after the unpleasantness following Imola between himself and Alain Prost. And we're riding now in the Brabham Judd of Stefano Modena in 3rd position. He's been lapped by both Senna and Prost. And he's having another go at Capelli and goes through. Capelli drops back, putting racing miles on the new March. We're on lap 63. McLaren Honda leads, McLaren Honda 2nd, Brabham Judd 3rd. Senna, Prost, Modena.
And Eddie Cheever creeping up the field into 7th place now. He's passed Nannini and is some 4.5 seconds ahead of him now.
And Ayrton Senna lapping just under 1 minute 27 compared with Prost 1 minute 29.2. Prost over 2 seconds a lap now, slower, and indeed than Senna. Indeed, Modena is now lapping faster than Prost is, and Cappy in fourth position is lapping very little slower than the McLaren Honda of Alain Prost there. 4 times a winner at Monaco, a most incredible record, 1984, 5, 6 and last year. And Senna, of course, won in 1987 in the Lotus.
Yes, what remains unexplained is that little flurry of speed by Prost, and it was just him having a bit of fun, enjoying himself and trying to stick a good firm lap record in. Because tactically for the race, it seemed pretty irrelevant. Senna squeezing his way past. Pair of Tyrrells.
We're going to have an interesting situation as you watch Jonathan Palmer after this race, because if Senna and Prost, there's a replay of Senna going through and taking Jonathan Palmer in the Tyrrell with Michele Alboreto in front of both of them. And I was saying we're going to have an interesting situation after this race if Senna and Prost finish in the order that they're in now, because they will be jointly leading the World Championship with 18 points each. And at this stage of the season, the rather reserved friendship which existed between them has now certainly been dissipated, and they both have been in the recent past saying some pretty harsh things about each other. And Palmer now coming up to Michele Alboreto. Jonathan Palmer in the Tyrrell chasing his teammate Michele Alboreto, who is in 5th place. And Jonathan Palmer is actually a lap behind Alboreto in 10th position, as Eddie Cheever and René Arnoux, with the Frenchman in the white helmet and in the blue Ligier, both their cars powered by Ford DFR engines. Now let's see how the determined Eddie Cheever copes with René Arnoux, who is in 12th position. Cheever is in 7th place. 2 laps behind the leader, Cheever. Arnoux is 3 laps behind the leader, Ayrton Senna. Meantime, Ayrton Senna is remorselessly reeling off the laps. He's on his 65th lap now, just 12 laps to go. Cheever goes through, and Arnoux actually interlocks wheels momentarily there. The Frenchman's judgment seemed to be a bit lacking there. Now De Cesaris is trying to take him in the Dallara. Andrea De Cesaris, who is well down actually, he's in 14th place, having had trouble earlier on. And here's the replay. Now watch Arnoux.
Yes, Arnoux turns in. I think they actually just touched front wheels then. But really, I mean, there's nothing really one can say about Arnoux. He just shouldn't be doing it.
Well, while you watch him, I'll tell you that we're on lap 65. Ayrton Senna has a commanding lead of 50 seconds now over his teammate Alain Prost. Stefano Modena a lap behind in 3rd position. Looks like finishing in that place, and that'll be the highest he's ever finished in the Brabham Judd or anything else. Alex Cappy is in 4th place, and he is in the Dallara. In 5th position, Michele Alboreto, 2 laps behind the leader. 6th is Capelli, 2 laps behind the leader. 7th is Cheever, and in 8th position is Nannini. In 9th position is Martin Brundle, still ahead of Jonathan Palmer, 10th. Boutsen is 11th. René Arnoux is in 12th position. Johnny Herbert is 13th, and 3 laps behind the leader. So Johnny Herbert, who showed enormous profit and potential in Brazil by finishing in 4th place, is well down here. As Senna comes through to complete another lap, it will be his 66th lap. He's just ticking the laps away now. You can see there's the gap between them, nearly 53 seconds. and it's a race now which just has to run its distance, with 12 cars left running effectively out of the 26 that started. This is the mirror boat, and this is Martin Brundle. It's Arnoux in front of him. Martin Brundle in 9th position, about to lap, or is he? René Arnoux, who is in 12th place, exiting the Rascasse with the McLaren behind them. Now is Arnoux going to let Brundle through? Brundle just absolutely sails past the Frenchman. Prost is coming up to lap him again now, having already done so. And in the background you can see the Williams of Thierry Boutsen, the Williams Renault. This is lap 67. 10 laps to go. Prost inside Arnoux, who goes wide, locks up his right front momentarily. Now Prost is setting about Brundle, who is in 8th position now. Martin Brundle has gained a place. He's up into 8th position. Behind Eddie Cheever 7th, Capelli 6th, Alboreto 5th, Caffey 4th, Modena 3rd, Prost 2nd, Senna in the lead. Now 55 seconds ahead of his teammate Alain Prost that you are looking at. The Frenchman who has scored more World Championship wins and more World Championship points than anyone else. 35 wins, an amazing 523.5 points. And you get half a point, incidentally, if a race fails to go its full distance within designated limits. And that's what happened to Prost. And the few cars that are left are very, very spread out around this 2.068 mile circuit. There is the race leader, Ayrton Senna. His Honda V10 engine has not missed a beat. There is an enormous regiment of Japanese technicians here to look after it, and their work has been very, very well done. Last year it was a V6 turbocharged Honda engine which developed some 1,000 horsepower, 1.5 litres. This year it's a 3.5 litre non-super oblique turbocharged, developing about 650 horsepower. The Honda allegedly produces about 40 horsepower more than any other engine. It is tremendously reliable, it is fuel efficient, and Senna is more than underlining now his claim to be the finest Grand Prix driver in the world by showing his teammate Alain Prost the way home. This is lap 69. Do you think, James, this is going to do anything to increase Senna's self-perceived dominance over Prost?
Well, I think it's being Monte Carlo, it's a bit of a specialist one for him, and I think Senna would certainly expect to dominate Prost here, but I think he would probably agree with me that there's still plenty of fight in the little fella yet, and particularly when we get to the quicker circuits. As Prost proved last year, he was able to be a real threat to Senna, and in fact in the second half of the season he really got going, and I don't think we've seen the last of Prost.
Well, this is De Cesaris chasing the arrows of Eddie Cheever. De Cesaris, who is in 14th place, Cheever, who is in 7th position, and Eddie Cheever really deserves a finish in the points. He's driven with great courage and determination, as he always does. By the way, Jonathan Palmer has unlapped himself by passing Michele Alboreto, who is still in 5th position. Jonathan Palmer is in 10th place still, but he has unlapped himself. And now De Cesaris has got past Eddie Cheever. That Dallara was designed by Sergio Rinland, the same man that designed the tremendously successful Brabham Judd with the help of John Baldwin at Brabham. So Sergio has got two very good cars on this circuit in his name. the 1988 improved 89 Dallara, and of course the 1989 Brabham, returning to Grand Prix racing after a year's sabbatical in 1988. And Martin Brundle is now in 8th position. Now, there's the battle, because Eddie Cheever, that you're looking at, there, number 9 in the arrows, is in 7th position. Martin Brundle, number 10, I'm sorry, Cheever. Derry Warwick is number 9. And he's being reeled in by Martin Brundle, having replaced that battery. Brundle is lapping in 1 minute 27.2, which is by far the fastest on the circuit. He's 1.3 seconds a lap faster than Ayrton Senna now. Senna, of course, has slowed down considerably. And now we're riding with Modena. This is not Brundle, this is Modena. And Brundle is still closing the gap between himself. And there is Modena up with Michele Alboreto. Alboreto is in 5th place, is about to be lapped by the 3rd place man, Stefano Modena. There's Alboreto in the new Tyrrell 018. And there, number 8 is Modena, 3rd position. He hopes to score his first ever World Championship points by finishing in 3rd position, 4 points. This is Casino Square. Round the right hand of the Mirabeau, this is the 2nd gear, 30 mile an hour Lowe's hairpin. Modena past Alboreto. Into the Portier, 2nd gear still. Up into 3rd, then 4th, into the 5th gear, tunnel under Lowe's Hotel. The one that flooded out some years ago and delayed the start of the Monaco Grand Prix very considerably. Down into the chicane. That's Alboreto. There is Modena. And meantime, Ayrton Senna is on his 71st lap in this 77-lap race. Now, as near as makes no difference, a full minute, ahead of Alain Prost. But Martin Brundle, still by far the fastest man on the circuit, in 8th position. And Ivan Capelli still in 6th place in that new march. That's him just going into the Rascasse round the swimming pool. Arnoux in the Ligier round Lowe's hairpin, followed by the Dallara. Dallara of Alex Caffey that is chasing him. Alex Caffey in 4th position. And we're getting a lot of new names up at the front now, because Alex Caffey in that extremely neat Dallara has yet to score a World Championship point. So in the World Championship points for the first time are Modena, who is in 3rd position, Caffey, who is in 4th place. Alboreto, of course, has got a lot of points to his name. He's in 5th position, and behind him, 6th position is Capelli.
Yes, and in 8th place is Martin Brundle, still fighting back. And if anybody deserves some points for today's performance, he certainly does. He is only half a second behind Cheever. He's still battling away with Eddie Cheever. And then Cheever is in turn 15 seconds behind Capelli, so he's got to get past Cheever, and he's got a bit of a run to do, and he's running out of laps.
It's terribly important to the Brabham team that they should get points, because they are currently having to pre-qualify to even take part in the official qualification sessions. And now it looks as though Arnoux, is he going to be pushed? No, he holds his place. Continues to keep Alex Caffey, who is in 4th position behind him. As you can see, there's 5 laps to go to the end of the Monaco Grand Prix, with René Arnoux still assiduously driving on in 12th position, holding back Alex Caffey, who is in 4th place, into the tunnel. And I was saying that it's terribly important to the Brabhams to get points as Caffey forces his way through, and that's Senna coming up to lap both of them, who is on his 73rd lap. He takes Arnoux for the 3rd time Arnoux lets him through. And I will get this out, that at the half distance point of the Grand Prix season, the pre-qualification requirements are re-evaluated, and if Brabham do well in the second half of the season, they will not have to pre-qualify. Someone else will. And meantime, Martin Brundle has got ahead of Eddie Cheever and is in 7th position. He's got 16 seconds to make up on Ivan Capelli if he is to finish in the points, which would be justice for both the Brabhams to finish there. And Ayrton Senna sprints up the hill round the Hotel de Paris on his 73rd lap. He's continuing to lap some 0.6 of a second faster than Alain Prost. He's now 61 seconds ahead of him. Modena is 52 seconds behind Prost. He is in 3rd position. It's still Caffey 4th, Alboreto 5th, Capelli 6th, Brundle 7th, and the interest in the race at the present moment is can Martin Brundle 7th get ahead of Capelli 6th and in the process get himself 1 World Championship point to add to the ones that he already has. Not this season. He hasn't scored any points this season, as I said earlier on, but he scored 10 points earlier on in his career. Martin Brundle, that is. That's the distinctive lines of the team-designed McLaren Honda. Neil Oatley leads the team, but there's a lot of extremely capable people, to put it mildly, at Woking, which is where the McLaren International superb modern factory is situated. And Neil Oatley is the leader, and jointly they have produced this magnificent motor car with its Honda V10 engine. And Ayrton Senna goes through to complete another lap. He's now only got the lap he's on and 2 more to complete the 77 lap, shortened by 1 lap. Monaco Grand Prix, three laps including this one, to make it 2 wins in 3 years. Prost won last year, Senna won the year before in the Lotus Honda, and he's lapping in 1 minute 29. Now, I'm going to be very interested to see what Martin Brundle's lap time is when he goes through at the end of this lap, because I suspect that he's still lapping considerably faster, and to see the gap between himself and Capelli. Martin Brundle approaching me now. He's going across the line as I talk to you now, and he is lapping nearly 2 seconds faster than Senna and carving the gap down between himself and Capelli.
Yes, unfortunately, with only 3 laps to go, it's still 12.5 seconds, and there is no realistic chance of him being able to catch and or pass Capelli. But of course, he's, I'm sure, doing the right thing. He's still lapping very quickly, and he's keeping the pressure on. So he may, it's always worth doing that, in my opinion, for a driver, to force the other chap to drive his car hard, to possibly cause a mechanical malfunction or push him into a mistake. So I think he's right to keep pressing on and charging.
Lap 75 for the man you're watching at, Senna. Prost is second, over a minute behind him. Modena is in 3rd position, Caffey is 4th, Alboreto is 5th, Capelli is 6th, Brundle is 7th, Cheever is 8th, Nannini is 9th, Palmer is 10th, Thierry Boutsen is 11th, and René Arnoux, 4 laps now behind the leader, is in 12th position ahead of Johnny Herbert, 13th, De Cesar is 14th, and Riccardo Patrese, limping round somewhere in the background, is in 15th position. And between Jonathan Palmer, who is 10th, and Thierry Boutsen, who is 11th, and Nannini, who is 9th, there is less than a second. It would be nice to see that. That's the real fight on the circuit at the present moment, and that is for 9th position, with Nannini in danger of losing it. Senna going through. He is now on his 76th lap, going into the the old Tabac, up to the swimming pool, soon to start his last and undoubtedly victorious lap, because he's going to be making no mistakes now. The car is going like clockwork round the Rascasse, and look for the signals. You should see the McLaren mechanics. He goes past his pit now, and Ayrton Senna is well on his way now. He has completed 76 laps. He's on his last lap.
Well, tremendous race by Senna. He made it look pretty easy. He fooled us a little bit at the start by looking after his tyres and just taking his time, and then from about 20 laps he really turned up the wick. And although he made it look easy, it's not easy to drive away from Alain Prost like that. So a really marvellous performance by Senna. We know that he loves the street circuit. He's always been very, very quick here. His first real success was here in the Benetton in his early days, and Prost, as usual, struggled in the traffic and really let things go. But a marvellous drive by Martin Brundle. He really deserves points, and he's in the points.
Yes, Martin Brundle is in the points now. He has gone past us in 6th position, and as Ayrton Senna comes through shortly to complete his last lap, the order is going to be Senna, Prost, Modena, Cafe, Alboreto, Brundle. So both the Brabhams will have finished in the points, and Martin Brundle will have got that single point that he so richly deserves. Capelli has disappeared altogether because Chiva is now up into 7th place, and the unfortunate Italian, as Senna gives the clenched fist of victory and tours round the Rascasse, really is dawdling home to victory, and the checkered flag goes out. Ayrton Senna wins the 1989 Monaco Grand Prix to make it 2 wins in 3 races, and to move up into the World Championship lead jointly with his teammate Alain Prost. And from now on we can really expect to see the sparks fly. Now, Alain Prost has yet to pass us, and there is a long, long gap. But, subject to official confirmation, the order of the Monaco Grand Prix: victory for Senna, 2nd for Prost, 3rd for Modena, 4th for Alex Caffey, 5th, an excellent 5th for Michele Alboreto, and 6th after Derek Warwick had stalled his point score for 3rd position for Stefano Modena, 4th Alex Caffey, 5th Michele Alboreto, and 6th, his first point this year, Martin Brundle. So, after the Monaco Grand Prix, Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna share the lead in the World Championship. 9 points ahead of the 3rd place, Nigel Mansell. 4th equal, Derek Warwick and Alessandro Nannini. And in 6th place, Maurizio Gugelmin and Stefano Modena. And in the Constructors' Championship, McLaren have extended even further their previous enormous lead over Ferrari, with Benetton in 3rd place and Brabham and Arrows sharing 4th position.
Everything worked well. Myself and Modena did our job, and I was catching Prost beautifully, and the car just felt fantastic. The brakes and the tyres and everything were in, and I was so comfortable. And then it just started to misfire at the top end on the exit of the tunnel, and then it just stopped on me and sort of splattered its way to the pits. And I discussed all this on the way in. The programme was that I would stay in the car so that I could hold the steering wheel and hold the brakes on while they changed the tyres, hop out, change the battery. I diagnosed the battery, God knows how I knew that, but I suggested it was the battery, which is underneath my legs, hopped out, and then of course I had to hop back in again, and all the messing around doing seatbelts up, which I seemed to be in there half an hour. I don't know how long I was in the pits, but then I was just fired up, and I had nothing to lose and everything to gain, and I made my decisions to pass people, and they just had to make their decisions after that.
So, an excellent day for Brabham, and a pretty good one in the end for Martin Brundle. But 2 weeks ago, it was a terrible day for Gerhard Berger when he slammed his Ferrari into the wall at Imola. Fortunately, he's perfectly all right, thanks to the stringent needs of modern Grand Prix safety, something which Jonathan Palmer, who is both a Grand Prix driver and a doctor, explains.
Well, I'm glad to say that Formula One safety standards are now very good indeed, and equally glad to say that they are still being continuously improved. We have 2 main aspects to this. One is the strength of the car, and the second part is the driver's safety equipment that we wear, the helmet and the overalls. Now, talking about the car itself first, the central core that the driver sits in, the tub as we call it, the chassis, is now made out of very, very strong composite material, carbon fibre generally, and all the other components are actually bolted onto this. We have the suspension at the front, the gearbox and the engine at the back, all bolted around this rigid central carbon fibre chassis. Now, if an accident does happen, most of the energy from that accident is dissipated when the car hits the barriers from bits of suspension being torn off. So although the accidents might look spectacular, with wheels coming off, engines and gearboxes, this all helps absorb energy and leave the driver in a better shape inside this rigid safety cell. Now, moving on to the driver's safety equipment, he has this helmet on, of course, which should eliminate any chance of injury should the car roll over and should any minor flying debris pass around. The helmet's visor is a very rigid sheet of perspex as well to prevent injury from flying stones. He also wears his overalls. Now, the primary function of these is in the event of fire. These are fire resistant, they're 3-layer, and under these overalls we also wear fire resistant underwear with fire resistant socks, balaclava, gloves, and even the lining for the helmet is also fire resistant. In the event of a fire, we've got approximately 30 seconds protection from being burnt with these overalls on. But the other problem, of course, of being within a burning car is one of oxygen depletion from the engulfing fire. And to help with this problem, we have an onboard air supply which is plumbed into the helmet via a manifold tube. In the event of an accident, this is activated by a G-sensor within the car or by the fire extinguishing system itself, and that gives us about a minute's worth of air to breathe so that we don't need to inhale those terribly damaging smoke or hot air fumes that can burn the lungs.
And those safety requirements, so clearly explained by Jonathan Palmer, are going to be just as relevant for the next World Championship event in Mexico in 3 weeks' time. As ever, Grand Prix will...